All right, a very good afternoon to you. Welcome to Good Afternoon Ghana. And we're doing, of course, definitely some analysis on issues going on in the country. And this afternoon's discussion will be in two parts. And the first one will be on the inflation, the latest inflation figure that we have recorded now so far. So Metro TV has already updated you that the inflation for July has now hit 31.7%. 31.7%. We'll give you the analysis of this later. For now, let's cross over to the Ghana Statistical Service, who gave us a brief of what the inflation was looking like.
A rate of 32.3% relative to 31.3% that was recorded for non-food inflation for the month of July 2022. This rate signifies a 1.0 percentage point difference between food and non-food inflation for the month of July 2022. It should be noted that the wage that we are charged for food is 43.7% relative to 56.3% that we are charged to non-food inflation. From a trend perspective, we're seeing an increase from 30.7 to 32.3 for food inflation, indicating a 1.6 percentage difference for food inflation between last month and this month. From a non-food perspective, we are seeing a 2.2 percentage point difference as we recorded 29.1 for non-food inflation for the month of July 2022 relative to 31.3 that we recorded for the month of
So a few days ago, it was recorded on the front page of Economic Times that the government revises macroeconomic indicators and inflation peaked at 28.5%. So this was just about 2 days ago. The date was, Sunday, 14th of August, 2022. That's when the Economic Times, report came out. It says that the government of Ghana has revised the end period inflation from 8% to 28.5%. Finance Minister Kenneth Ferretta has announced in the media budget review presented to Parliament last week. Now, he also said the revision of the end period inflation for 2022 as a part of the rejigging the entire macroeconomic framework has been necessitated by the significant change macroeconomic environments. He also said that based on the development of the first 6 months of the 2022 outlook, for the rest of the year, the government has accordingly revised the macro fiscal targets for 2022. And this is how it revised it. For overall GDP growth rate of 3.7%, down from 5.8%. Non-oil GDP growth rate of 4.3%, down from 5.9%. End of period inflation of 8.5%, up from 8%. And then the overall fiscal deficit of 6.6% of GDP, down from 7.4%. Primary surplus of 0.4% of GDP, up from surplus of 0.1% of GDP. And also, capital expenditure for the period amounted to 7.108 billion Ghana cedis, representing 14% of GDP against a target of 8.905 billion Ghana cedis. Let's go on to the phone lines and just start the discussion right out. My producer is prompting me to take a breather. When I come back, we'll speak with Professor John Gatsi on this development. We'll be back shortly. This is Good Afternoon, Ghana. Right, welcome back to Good Afternoon, Ghana. I'm told that Professor John Gatsi has joined me. Prof, you can hear me. Good afternoon to you. Hello, Prof. Gatsi.
Good afternoon.
Okay, great. Thank you for joining us. You're welcome to Good Afternoon, Ghana. Now, so the latest figure we have actually recorded for inflation this month, end of July, is the 31.7%. Prof, what will be your opening comments on what we have, published?
Well, that is the fact released by the Statistical Service. It is not just happening. The signs are on the wall. The fiscal management is having a reflection on prices. And again, exchange rate development is having effect on prices. So that is what we are seeing. And this is another signal that the earlier we embrace the storm and find solution to our problem, we will get to a point that people cannot even purchase anything. The value of people's earnings are going down significantly. And those are the things that are embedded in a higher inflation as announced by the Statistical Service.
So, it looks as though the current figures that we even have and we're dealing with is not the exact realistic situation on the ground. If we actually consider how fast inflation is rising, what should the people do as it is now? What should people do? I remember I've just, we buy coconut a lot. Recently, we go to buy coconut, and it's almost impossible to buy about 4 or 5 of it because the budget we had, the current price exceeds our budget. Inflation is really fast rising. What should the people really do?
Well, from the micro level, the household level, we can only advise that people should revise their personal budget. People should focus on things which are very essential to them and cut down on things which are not very essential to them, because you cannot be running your original budget within this destabilized economic situation. So that is the advice we can give to households. And that also applies to businesses. They need to prioritize what should be done now to keep them going. And if they don't do that, they will be derailed. And the same thing we have been telling the government to also do. Most of the things are not being done. So I think that will be the advice across board. What we also advise government to embrace the real situation and stop playing with the situation in Ghana. We want to hear them talking about measures that are very concrete and resonate with us and resonate with our international partners in handling the situation. It doesn't seem to be the case now.
I'm not sure. Okay, so I was reading this earlier on when you say it doesn't seem to be the situation or the case now. We have the revision of the end period when the inflation was at 28.5%. So government had to also revise its figures, and we had non-oil GDP growth rate of 4.3%, which was revised from 5.9%. We had the end period inflation of 2.8%. Okay, let me leave this one. We had overall fiscal deficit of 6.6% of GDP, down from 7.4%. And then we also had capital expenditure for the period amounted to 7.108 billion Ghana cedi, representing 14% of GDP against a target of 8.90 billion Ghana cedis. Domestic capital itself also expenditure recorded a deviation of 77.4%. So with this revision and these figures that we are recording, is it not enough on the side of the government? Must they do something further?
Well, I think the question is whether or not the projected deficit is realistic, given what we know. Mm-hmm. That is a very important question that we should get. In fact, when we say that government policy is not credible, government programs and strategy is not resonating with international market and partners and Ghanaians, it's just because whatever they put out does not seem to be the reality. And also remember the deficit of 6.6 is a projection. you need to look at what is happening the first quarter and the second quarter. And that should tell you that that figure is only meant to ensure that we pronounce some accommodating deficit figure that may be acceptable in the international market. But as it is, they are not respecting those things. That is why things continue to be the way they are. So we need to come out with a resonating strategy about the management of the crisis. That is not coming. So it is not about just cutting figures and projects. It is about the reality that others are looking at. It's not only government that are actually making assessment of the numbers. The international organizations like IMF, World Bank, analysts within the country are also making assessment of those numbers. It doesn't seem to be reflecting what we should be putting forward.
We know that the fiscal space is really tight now. There's been experts who are calling for a government to also revise its policies that causes it to really overspend. So expenditure continues to rise because, government policies is also a bit capital intensive. Why is it becoming so difficult? And sometimes when you ask that government must, halt the activities on some of these policies, not necessarily cancel them, but halt them in the meantime, considering the problem at hand. We're looking at reshuffling of ministers. Some are also considering cut down of government size itself. Why is this difficult for government to do, considering what we're faced with?
Well, it's difficult for government because, number one, government is not portraying that we are actually in a crisis. Now, if we are in a crisis, one of the major factors that anybody will see to take you serious is when you bring the nation together. The government, the president, the finance minister, they continue to divide the country. This is not the time we should be referring to 2016, 2014, and the rest, but that is what they are doing. So it's as if they don't believe in anybody apart from them. We are calling for coming together to reflect on the economy and come with one agenda as a people, devoid of politics. The government will come and make statement that is insulting to people who make such calls. The government doesn't believe that even change in personality, change in the face of your team is very important to attract sympathy and the rest from the international market. The government doesn't seem to believe that. So that is what is creating one problem. Anytime the government comes, that kind of confidence is not assumed in the statement that government makes. Can you believe that somebody who is fighting IMF is telling us that he's leading IMF delegation? How do you want people to have confidence in that?
You're making reference to the comments that have been made about IMF by the same group of persons that are leading our IMF deal.
So what is your faith in those people? Nobody has anything against those individuals, but that is how it is done. If you say you don't believe in the process, you cannot lead the process. It's as simple as that. It has nothing to do whether you like the people or you don't like the people. And just suppose that with the reaction by the president. Those who are calling me to reshuffle, they want to destabilize my government. So the whole thing is just like a child's play. So they will not take us seriously. That's the issue.
2 days ago, we had Guta come out and was throwing from some, caution and warnings to the government to do something immediately about the exchange rate. And it also, asked for government to reconvene the foreign exchange committee that it established before so that some emergency meeting happens for us to take immediate measures, especially in the area of trade. Is that possible? If it should happen, should government listen? Will it make any change on the trade side?
In the first place, I don't know what will be done in the trade side that will bring an immediate solution.
Right.
we have gone past the time that we should be talking about short-term solution, because we don't have. We should be falling on our reserve. The reserve is depleted beyond anyone touching it again. So what is there for the immediate term? It's very difficult for us to be talking about that. And I don't believe that any foreign currency committee is able to provide immediate solution. And we also need to ensure that we do things in the right manner. Any foreign exchange committee that is being spearheaded by the finance ministry is against the constitution. We need to empower the Bank of Ghana to lead such effort. The moment you are putting it under the Ministry of Finance, the one who have borrowed and create fiscal challenges, and you want the same ministry to be championing the Foreign Exchange Committee, that may be a joke. Tell me what was the result of the past Foreign Exchange Committee that was put in place in 2019. I think the solution for this country is come together, allow others to make input, so that that input become a common tool that we want to use. But the country is divided on all fronts: politics, policy, what have you. So that is what we should be doing. We are not presenting any cogent solution to this problem. The Guta case is just cry for the government to understand that their businesses are dying, for the government to understand that upward price development is imminent. It's not stopping anytime soon. And that is not good for the country, for government to respond. I have not seen any response from the government about these critical issues that Guta raised. So that is where we are. The main thing, let's come together and salvage the economy. The moment a team of people believe that what they are doing, which is not bearing fruit, they will continue to do that in this crisis, we are in greater crisis.
What would be your economic advice? Because from the presidency, it obviously has closed its doors to contributors. I know the former president, John Dramani Mahama, has called for a dialogue, a national dialogue for us to find a solution to this. If you listen to the president, who says that by the time he was speaking, all his ministers were outstanding and therefore will not reshuffle, it gives you the indication, and by additional comments, it gives you the indication that he has closed doors to every suggestions or opinions, even whatever Guta will say might not, may just, go through the back of their ears. And so we have no choice but to endure the difficulty. What will be your economic advice?
The advice is that we need to ensure to convince the president that the people elected him and he appointed ministers. The ministers are not acting in his personal interests. The ministers are acting in the interest of the country. The greater benefit of any good economic management is what goes to the people. So if the people say that this one, we are not getting what we expect from your ministers, and you say you will not listen, it's as if the country has become your own. And that has its own risk for the economy. So I think that the president ought to reflect on all these things and about those statements. The ministers are closer to the people than the president on daily basis and what they expect to do and the output that we have about them now. So if the president is saying that the output is so excellent, that excellent output is what is giving us 31.7% inflation. That output is what is giving us more than 9 cities to the dollar. That output is what is giving us a lot of projects shut down. That output is what has accumulated so much arrears That output is what has given us huge debt and then repayment burden for the economy. So what is the output? Where is the output? We have seen the output. We are not happy about some of them. If the president wants to believe that the country belongs to all of us, then at a point in time, he needs to listen to the people. If he doesn't want to listen to the people, then it's as if the country has become personal. But the people are suffering as a result of all this policy engagement.
Right, Prof. Thank you for your time this afternoon. I will speak with you again as we advance the discussion. Thank you for your time. So, are you still on, Prof?
Yes.
I just wanted to find out
on.
the posture the president has taken. Is it a recipe for disaster in terms of possible uprising if the people speak and you take a posture of not listening?
I think the president and his security advisors, economic management team should assess that.
Right. I'm grateful for your time. Thank you very, very much. Professor John Gatsi there. He's Dean of the University of Cape Coast Business School, speaking to us.